Hey ho, how y'all doing? Hope you're well. It is now a nice day here. It was raining for about 2 days and it is much warmer out now. And I like the cold. I walked this morning though, like 6 miles in the rain, and it was much colder this morning. So I like the chill. As I get older, I like the chill. When I was younger, I hated it. I'm sure a lot of people, it could be hormonal because that happens with women. Because some people really decrease their tolerance for the cold as they age, and that's why they end up going to Florida. And I would fry like an egg if I was living in Florida. No, thank you. No, thank you. So I was reading this post today. I forget his name. He talks a lot about relational psychology, more spiritually attuned, I would say, but he's in that genre. So he talks a lot about relational dynamics, and he posted something today. It really pissed me off, actually. He said that any man who works solely with women is pedophilic in nature and has a rescuer-saver complex, and his ego feeds off of the nature of that work. It was just a lot of all or nothing, very black and white thinking. And I felt like it was an attack on some men that I really value and respect that work solely with women. Now, to an extent, I can understand a natural curiosity as to why a man would want to work solely with women. But to make it such a blatant black or white thing, I think creates a lot of dissonance and a lot of divide, and it's not right. And so what he was saying was that the only way a woman could heal is through and by other women and being a part of women's circles, which I viscerally disagree with, because there is so much garbage in those circles. And I'm not saying that as an all or nothing. I know women who have thrived in those types of circles. It's never been my thing. It's never been helpful for me. And, you know, not to make this about me, but I have to orient towards my experiences. I can only speak from my own experiences in terms of things like this. Now, I know many women who will agree. I've also disclosed that I worked with all females for like 4 years, and it was not a good experience. I lived for when men came into the office, and I lived for the summers when I was full on with the kids camp, because I had so many male counterparts in that arena. But as far as the office went and being a full-time admin, it was mainly women. And in the counseling center, it was all women. It was very, very difficult. So, you know, I had a comment. I did, because I felt like this is a man in the healing arts, and I felt like it was a really imbalanced post and could create a lot of harm. Because women might be in the hands of the right person for them, and then they read something like this and they get scared off, and then they start to accuse their practitioner of being a pedophile or having all of these unhealed issues and wounds. That's like saying all male gynecologists are in it just to look at women's vaginas all day. Now, I have seen male gynecologists kind of not my first choice in those instances. It was like, well, you know, your primary care physician is not in, and so is going to cover. Or emergency situations. I always felt more comfortable with a woman, because I do find it odd to an extent, but that's the system of care that they wanted to go into. They might have grown up with all women. They might have been very attached to their moms. Like, there are many reasons why men might orient themselves more towards working with or aligning with the feminine. And to say that, to make it an all or nothing thing is just super dangerous. So that was one thing that I wanted to touch on, because I've had a lot of accusations and a lot of negative commenting in the past towards me in terms of me speaking about men's issues and like, how dare you, and who do you think you are, and how could you even tend to these sensitive issues and topics when you're a woman and you know nothing about it? And my retort to all of that was, do you want it? Like, then go listen to the women who just male bash. At least I'm a woman who's trying to see your point of view as a man and get into the underpinnings and the underbelly and go, move through all of those complex layers of being a man. I'm the woman saying it's not easy to be a man. I'm the woman saying that other women need to be a little bit more forgiving, a little bit more understanding, a little bit more curious and interested in why men feel the way they feel, why men respond the way they respond. So, I mean, have at it. Go listen to the woman who's a total man hater. Again, I'm recovered. I think it's very common to come out of an abusive situation or a complex dynamic and hate all men or hate all women and make it like all men are this and all men are that, when our heart is broken and we're grieving. And again, in intense situations of abuse, you have to rage. You have to feel all of those deep, visceral feelings of rage and hate, because it's human and it's normal. And better out than in. It's more using anger as a positive catalyst for growth and change, and using it correctly, not, going out and beating somebody up or dating someone else and making them pay for the sins and the pain of the past from a past person. That's why I thought it was so genius. I love axe throwing. It's usually something my daughters and I do every time I go up to see them. And one day we were in there and somebody, was like, oh, we just had a divorce party. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And it's like, oh yeah, groups of men or women will rent lanes and put the picture of the ex on the target and then whiz axes at them. And, somebody said, like, I think that's horrific. That's so horrible. And I was like, no, that's actually the best thing to do. It's like breaking plates or taking a bat to a pillow. You have to get it out. You're not essentially doing any real harm. You're not actually sending bad voodoo, black magic energy to that person. You're just getting it out. It's like punching a punching bag. Putting a picture of the person on the punching bag and punching it. I'd rather a person move through intense emotion that way than, again, taking it out on the wrong people. Whether it's in an intimate partnership, like dating somebody and then making them pay, or just beating up on your kids or beating up on your colleagues or beating up on your mentors or your siblings or your parents, your family, your friends. And we have a tendency to do that. So that's some of the stuff that I wanted to address. And I also wanted to talk a little bit, I'm getting the certification in Motival, because they're called pivotal. Pivot point. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to slow myself down. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to slow myself down. I did want to touch. I get excited and I talk fast. Everyone thinks I'm Italian because I use my hands and I talk fast and I talk passionately, but I'm everything but Italian. I don't know how that happens. Somewhere inside me, I'm Italian, I guess. So I used to be Italian by association. He's my ex-husband. And I work for Pivot Point. I've talked about this company before. He's a not-for-profit. Love his mission, love his vision, clearly, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be on board. And we're getting a certification in motivational interviewing, which is I guess I'll even use the word strategy. It is a strategy. It's not a technique. It's more like a strategy, but it's not, we're not invested in any outcome. A lot of times in therapy, that therapist is very invested in the outcome of things. Our job is to be invested in the client's vision and the client's thoughts and ideas about things and their process. It's their outcome. And so any ideas that we have about the client of what we think they should do or what we want for them is essentially irrelevant. So it's a very collaborative guidance. Like, it's a collaborative effort and you're guiding them. So it's not directive like cognitive behavioral therapy. There's a lot more I could say about that, but a lot of motivational interviewing is used in substance use and misuse. And so I wanted to touch a little bit on this because I think motivational interviewing is a really great skill set. And it is like learning a new language, and it does take a lot of practice. Like, my head is about to explode because I'm almost finishing up with level 1. And I think it's a really good relational tool because you're leaning in with curiosity and you are taking yourself out of the outcome. You know, it's led and driven in a very different way. And it's so much more about compassion and empathy and partnership and collaboration. And I think this is like where consciousness is bringing us: collaboration over competition, creating partnerships with people. And that's a skill set. You know, conflict resolution is a skill set. Communication is a skill set. And so using these concepts of motivational interviewing, I think, is kind of a genius way to navigate relationally speaking. And they did say that in the training. I think it was in module 6, the one that I just finished up, where the provider, the facilitator, was saying that this is something that she uses with her children and, you know, with colleagues and in her friendships and with her family, because there's no manipulation. You know, again, this is not tactile. It's a strategy. But what you're really doing, and it's strength based, you're really, you know, pulling on the strengths of the client or the participants. Client, I guess, is for lack of a better word. So look into that. Maybe I'll link up some resources about that. I think it would be really helpful. So it's a lot of open-ended questions, and it's about change talk. So sustained talk is like, they don't use the term denial because they're not into labeling. But for you all who may have no idea what motivational interviewing is, it would be considered a denial stage of something. But if I'm really like teaching true blue MI skills, or facilitation, it is, you know, we wouldn't use the word denial. So sustained talk would just be like, I don't have a drinking problem. I don't think I drink too much. That would be an example of sustained talk. And then an example of change talk would be, maybe I do drink too much. Maybe this is something that I need to look into. So they're getting curious about their own behavior. And then that would be the moment for the MI facilitator to lean in and say something in the MI, strategy pyramid using OR skills. ORs is open-ended questions and affirmations, which is, you know, strength-based, because you can go into cheerleading, which I have a tendency to do, and get over-enthusiastic, which I have a tendency to do, and then that can really push people away. And it can decimate what you're trying to do, which is move your client from ambivalence towards change. So this might be really over everyone's head listening to this, but like reading that guy's post today was very authoritative and directive. Like, this is how it is and this is law. And that pushed me away from wanting to be like, oh my gosh, this is such a great post, and this is so genius, and it's so thought-provoking. It was very all or nothing or black and white, and motivational interviewing is the complete antithesis of that. So using your or skills, a lot of reflection. So they say 2-to-1 ratio, using reflection for almost the entire conversation. So for every question you ask, you're giving 2 reflections. So there's a lot of deep and active listening involved. And then you're summarizing. And if you're moving more from simplistic summaries to complex summaries, then you would be focusing more on change talk. So you might start a summary summarizing and reflecting on a little bit of the sustained talk, but then really highlighting the change talk, because again, we're moving people from ambivalence to change. And what's so genius about this is I am the most impatient person with ambivalence. I can't stand ambivalence, especially relationally speaking. Like in intimate partnerships, it's like, I'm very much a shitter, get off the pot person. And I learned MI when I was in a counseling center in a clinical setting. I worked in an intensive outpatient program with co-occurring disorders. So we did a lot of SMART goals, and I'm a SMART recovery facilitator. So we did a lot of motivational interviewing. And it's so good to be back here, because I have my younger one going through a little bit of a crisis. And so I started using MI on her the last 48 hours. And I think it's helping. We'll see. Baby steps. And that's what this is all about. And it is a dance. So it could be 2 steps forward and 1 foot back. But when it comes to change, aren't we all like that? And then, I was like, what, Carrie, you get so annoyed with ambivalence, but at the end of the day, we can all be ambivalent about something. I'm kind of just a really all or nothing person. Like when I quit drinking, I quit for 4 years. I didn't touch alcohol for 4 years. I was celibate for 4 years. I mean, I've been celibate for almost 2 years now, but I was celibate for 4 years. And this is deeply personal stuff, but the only time that you should be worried about sharing things that are vulnerable is if you're really nervous about somebody weaponizing it against you and you not being able to handle the backlash. And I'm pretty thick-skinned at this point. I mean, I'm deeply sensitive and my feelings get hurt, but there's nothing anybody could say about the stuff that I disclose on this channel that I would be like, oh my God, I'm going to go and cry. So I was celibate for 4 or 5 years. I can be very all or nothing, and I dive really deep into change. I love change. I understand that change is growth. I understand that I'm going to become a better person, but I also understand that most people are not like that. And most people need to take baby steps, and that cold turkey and all or nothing can be very difficult. And isn't it weird? It's ironic, isn't it, that I'm such an all or nothing person when it comes to myself, but then I saw that post and I was like, this is so all or nothing. And it really, I found it very off-putting. So it's, most of us don't make sense. Listen, most of us don't know what we're doing. Most of us don't have a clue. Most of us are moving through life blindly. The people that you think have it all together the most probably don't. This is why we can't put people on a pedestal, because we're all fallible. We're human. We're deeply and inherently flawed human beings. So yeah, don't do that. Don't put people on a pedestal. And the last thing that I wanted to touch on, and I'm talking about a lot of things. I have that habit. I know it can be really ick for a lot of people that watch me, because they want one topic, they want somebody to stay focused, and I jump around. This is not my full-time gig. I'm not making money off of YouTube. I don't have delusions of grandeur. I speak from the heart. I'm not someone who's scripted. A lot of YouTubers are scripted, and I jump around because there are days and times where I have all the time in the world and I can do 4 different videos. That's not my life. I just started another job. I'm now working 2 to 3 jobs. I don't have all the time in the world. It just so happens that the school that we would have been in today for Pivot Point canceled. I was super disappointed. I love those kids. I look forward to seeing them every week, but I was able to get almost all of my motivational interviewing training done so I could get the certification, and I was able to do some admin work for Pivot Point, which is a pleasure because it's just, I enjoy that job. So I don't have all the time in the world. I wanted to address the UFOs. I said UFOs. I actually meant to say drones. Carrie, because I'm not really convinced that they're drones, and why is the government not saying more? And if it was if there was a threat of an attack, a foreign attack, they would have done it already. There would be no song and dance. There would be no zipping in and out, and the government would have taken action. So either they know what's going on and they're just not saying anything. I am leaning towards UFOs. And I posted on my Facebook group a woman who's an astrologer. She's called Lunatic Astrology. She's like super amazing at what she does. She talks really fast like me too. And then I hear her and I go, oh my God, Carrie, you have to slow down. It's always good to see yourself in other people and then let them reflect to you what you need to course correct. That's like not a bad thing. And it's a skill set to be able to see that and be like, I do that. And now I see how I can come off or present myself. And I need to course correct. But her name is Lori. Forgot her last name, Lunatic Astrology. And basically there is this like meteor, or it's not a planet, starts with a U. And every time it comes into play, there has historically been a ton of UFO sightings. And here we are again. I believe it's a meteor. I will also link that video because I think it's pretty telling. I mean, she has a lot of congruency and cohesion in the information that she's put together in that video. So I do think it could be extraterrestrial in nature. And we also know that the military has been sandbagging the fact that UFOs and aliens are real forever. So I'm more than sure the military and the government know what's going on right now. Please don't be fearful. This was the biggest point of me adding this into the video. I think we should, like Lori says in her video, the Lunatic Astrologer, we need to come at this with curiosity, wonder, and awe. Because I think it's so amazing to know that there are beings out there that are more intelligent than us and have all of these amazing capabilities, and that we're not the only life force here. Because why do we need to believe that? Or why do we need to believe that to feel safe in this world? And perhaps they're quite benevolent, and perhaps we can learn a lot from them. I think there's aliens among us. I've always thought there were aliens among us. As a matter of fact, I'm a projector according to human design, and we are known as the aliens of the of society, because reflectors make up the smallest amount. In human design, there's like 5 types, and reflectors are only like 2 or 3% of the population in the entire world. And I believe projectors are 20%, but there's a few different types of projectors, and I'm a self-projected projector. So I make up 12% of the population. So when I found that out, it actually helped me a lot, because I was like, oh yes, I have never felt like I belonged here. And now I know why. And they do call projectors the aliens of society and the game changers. So that makes sense. I think it makes sense. Anywho, I touched on a lot of stuff, and it was a little bit of a zigzag, but I'm an F5 tornado, and I don't know how to make that better. Oh, and one last thing before I go. So I did this post about my ex, this guy that I dated like 13, 14 years ago. And I'm a writer, so I just, I was in the mood, and I needed to get it out because he's been on my brain. And, I've been single a long time. I've been on my own 17 years. And I had a friend reach out, a male friend, after he read that. And he's like, I really hope you find a good man. And he said something about like, you got to put yourself out there more and like smile and make conversation. And it's really interesting because I'm forward facing in a lot of my jobs, and I do feel like I'm super playful and goofy, and I smile and I make conversation. So I don't know how else to put myself out there, but if y'all have any ideas for me, not online dating, you let me know. You know what? And this guy, he teases me because I think I had said something one day, either to him or on one of my platforms, that I'm like gonna meet a dude in Lowe's. And I actually was considering applying for a part-time job in Lowe's because I think I would love working there, because my dad, not only was he a police officer, but he was a contractor, and now he has his own contracting business. So I grew up with all of that. So I love the smells and like sweaty workmen, and maybe I'll meet my dream guy in Lowe's. I don't know. I love you to pieces though.